All right, guys. Well, so welcome to the session again. Just to start up the thing, Chris Kennedy just left, which probably means that we're going to be coming back in a shortly. All right. So we need to get a couple of things done in relation to the course that we're looking at. And one of the things is primarily what we need to be looking at would be the course outline, which I'd kind of asked people to download. If you didn't, don't worry yourself about it, um, so that we'd have an idea of what we're looking at. So this is the course outline here, and what I wanted to bring to your attention, first off, are the two textbooks that we're utilizing for this course. Those are the textbooks that are in the e-classroom that I'd asked you to visit to download, because they're going to play a big role in the course itself, so that you're going to be using them extensively during the semester. But the first thing I really want us to look at would be, of course, with some degree of attention, would be the course objectives. So to begin with, if we look in the course description, you'd realize that this is an introductory course. It is not meant to be a an in-depth study, but in-depth enough for us to do an introductory level, to be able to provide a basis for you all for us, I should say, to evaluate leadership around us and to examine the quality of leadership that exists in and around us, and the types of leaders we would prefer to have in relation to the types of leaders we may have around us right now. Now, if we look at the course objectives, you'd see there are primarily 6 ones that upon completion, you would be able to comprehend and apply various theories of leadership, comprehend, apply, and defend decisions using various tools of ethical decision making. That's going to be a big area that we're going to be looking at. Create a plan that applies the concepts of good governance and leadership, just for completion. Organize teams in such a way that it demonstrates and displays an awareness and understanding of group dynamics and teamwork. Report on leadership issues facing our community and society and propose solutions. And the last one, display and modifies behaviors indicative of a personal philosophy of leadership and ethics. Now, the phrase modified behavior, from my remembering, I don't recall seeing anybody here doing social work or psychology or sociology. No, I think I remember everybody being more management studies and a couple graphics and IT people. All right. If there's anybody here who's doing the other one, we could see. What do you, if anything, understand by the concept of behavior modification? What do you all understand by that? Anybody could answer that. Huh? Nobody. Somebody.
All right. So to me, behavior modification is either changing your own behavior.
Uh-huh. And what will cause somebody to change their behavior? What stimulus do you think it takes?
The environment that they are in.
To a big change, it has to be something drastic that will cause them to take stock of what's going on and decide that no, something has to change. But they must come to that decision that something has to change before they.
All right, that's one perspective. Are there any other perspectives?
I think that what causes people to change or what could help modify someone's behavior is like positive and negative reinforcements or like positive or negative consequences to a situation.
Very
So
good.
yeah, maybe.
Right? No, that's actually quite right because for those of you who are parents and for those of you who have been children in the not so distant past, you might have remembered your parents using punishment as a form of changing your behavior. That makes sense? And the older we get, the more set we become in our behavioral patterns. So obviously, if we look at the course outline and we look at the course objective 6, you'd recognize that making asking you guys to make changes to your behavior is not necessarily going to be an easy thing. So this course has a lofty goal of trying to get you to modify your behavior when it comes to leadership and ethical behavior. But we'll see very much soon about how that's going to go. So the objective is a lofty objective. Besides just understanding and being able to explain various leadership theories and so on, we actually have this behavior modification learning outcome that we need to be able to evaluate. Did it have an impact? Can it have an impact? And how do we get that? And Riaz brought up the point of something critical happening in our lives that will lead us into change. And that is also a possibility that something happens that forces us to change. And that again has to do with what Leo was talking about in terms of some sort of external motivation to be able to make you change your behavior. The problem with that is if the external stimulus is not consistent or is consistently present to keep that change enforced in you, then there's a greater likelihood that that modification does not hold and take root. So one of the other elements that causes behavior modification is from within. And that's what we're hoping to achieve in this course, that we will appeal to you so that you would, in such a way that you would want to make a change. That makes sense? You can message if you agree. You don't have to answer if you want. We could use the chat room as well to discuss these things. So I was pointing out that these are the goals of the objectives of the course. And they are going to be critical to be able to try and achieve. Now, what is the objectives and how are we planning to do that? And that brings us to the next document that we have to spend some time with. To be able to effectively get you guys to want to change, we have a technique that we're going to utilize here. And this is the course schedule that has all my contact information and email addresses and so on. For your information in the event that you need to communicate with me. A couple of my email addresses you have already. You'd see one that just simply reads gmail.com. That is if something happens on the COSTAT platforms and we have no choice but to utilize that form of communication as a backup. So it's only really as a backup. And of course, my mobile number is there, which is also available for WhatsApp activities as well. All right, now I notice I have on my schedule 5 to 8. But one of the first things that I wanted to talk about was how comfortable is everybody with the 11 o'clock start? Let's kind of get that one out of the way one time. Because I have a sneaky suspicion that 11 o'clock is not necessarily a good time for everybody, especially people who might have children in their home on a Saturday. Now, speak now, forever hold your peace. So far I have 2 people okay with 11 o'clock, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So everybody's okay with the, it seems. All right.
Hi, sir.
All right. Who's this? Hi. Joy?
Joy.
Yes.
Yes. I just want to let you know, my week at glance is saying that I supposed to have religion from 11 to 2, and your class is still being like to be announced. And then your message and said that it would be 11 to 2. And well, I haven't had the class yet. Still says he's still making the e-classroom and whatnot. So I wouldn't
Mhm.
know if it would be 11 to 2 unless he tells us. So I'll
All
still
right.
have to get back to you on that.
Is that Mr. Rudy Paul?
I don't,
You
yeah.
know your
I
records?
do. I'm from the South Campus.
Yeah, okay. Rudy teaches down south too, so I was wondering. Anyway, um, all right. So in a lot of cases, the classes, not all of our classes will be live sessions, but because of the methodology that is utilized in this class, there will be a number of live sessions, which is why we're going through the schedule. So let's go to that, and then you'll start to talk about it. So you may have a clash. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But I think religion probably does not may use like similarly like one online session to start up and then everything else goes online in what is referred to as an asynchronous methodology. We have a combination in this class of both synchronous and asynchronous activities. So monitor what's going on. When you find out more, then you'll be able to let me know how things work out. Okay. All right. But so far, it seems everybody's comfortable, at least those of us who are here, with the 11 o'clock start. And if the majority of the class is comfortable with it, I'm going to stay with it. Okay. Because technically we didn't really get started until about 11:30. So, because it took us a while to get everybody into the classroom. And as I said, we still have about 5 people absent. So let's go across to the schedule here. So everybody's seeing this, right? Just let me know because I can't see the chat anymore when I'm presenting stuff. All right, so we should be seeing here a schedule of activities, and there are all the dates that are in red are live sessions, online sessions. Okay, so we're going to be consistently doing live sessions until every Saturday until the 7th of November, if we go according to plan. All right. Now, our next live session, besides today, which is the 19th, will be the 3rd of October. All right. So basically, what's going to happen after this class is that I am going to present from the two texts from the Exploring Leadership, chapters 1 to 3, or unit 1 of the textbook Exploring Leadership by Knives. All right, that's the first textbook here. I'm going to be dealing with that. So the technique that I'm hoping to use is, a voiceover, PowerPoint of some sort, going through the material and explaining what's going on in those chapters. And then the fun starts. So on the 3rd of October, we get back together to kind of have a discussion about the presentations that you would have looked at between the 26th and the 3rd of October. And we will review what's going on there to move forward with the rest of the chapters. So for this class, from chapter 4 moving forward in terms of the two textbooks, small groups of students will teach the class each chapter. All right. So because there are 25, so just want to show you this. There are, in fact, 25 students listed in this class. Some of them as I said, some people are not here, but there are 25 people registered for the class. What we have to do is to right now assign for our presentations 1 to 5, 2 people each, and then 6 to presentation 10, 3 people each from the class. All right? Everybody's following that? But he understands what I'm talking about. Let me know.
Sir, you were breaking up just now. Didn't quite catch all of that.
Okay, so what I was saying was, I need for presentations 1 to 5, teams of 2 students each, and from 6 to 10, teams of 3 students each that will present each chapter. And that will use up the full 25 students in the class. All right? So given that we have a couple of people absent, I think up to about 6 people absent from class today, maybe we'll be able to settle out a couple of the presentations, but I need to finish or completely assign everybody to each their chapter presentations so they'll have enough time to present. Now, that presentation that you're doing, where you're teaching the content of each chapter to the class itself, will be done in a live session. And each session, each day, will have 2 chapters being presented. So you'd notice that presentation 1 and 2 are both on the 10th of October. So and that will be chapter 4, Understanding Self, and chapter 5, Understanding Others. That will be 2 teams they're presenting on that. They were looking at presentations ranging between 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, to a maximum of 45, depending upon the length of the chapter. Although some chapters can get up to an hour, but again, it depends upon the content and the length of the chapter and its information density. The ones that are in yellow tend to be a little heavier, so they tend to be longer. And that's why I'm saying these chapters, you can use up to 3 people in them. All right? But if push comes to shove, I've had people of groups of 2, but you're using small groups to present the content. So far, so good, everybody? So what we're looking for now for people to volunteer to work on these things. Now, just to give you a concept or an idea of it, those presentations count for 30% of your final grade. So now I'll probably hear some comments.
So
Yes.
will you be putting us in groups so we have to make our own group?
Right now I'm asking people to volunteer because I want to build a schedule and load it onto the e-classroom so that people will have it. All right. So if you want to volunteer to do chapters now, so you all could chat among yourselves right now, see who might want to partner up in groups of 3 or groups of. So like for instance, our rabbit people could get together, our writers can get together, make a team, and message each other using the chat function, or just speak out if you want to each other and say who's interested. But what you're looking at is, I mean, it's kind of difficult to assign yourself to a chapter when you have no clue what the chapter might be about, with the exception of just simply looking at the title of the chapter, which is listed on the schedule here. So yes, I would prefer not to assign people, but I will when the need arises, because there are some people who are absent, and therefore I would have to assign them. But as you are here, I'm giving you the opportunity to make choices. So let's hear if anybody's ready to volunteer, and I'll start sticking names into.
Excuse me. You said we could pair up, right?
Yes.
You said there was a Shania Forbes in this class. I know her. Could I pair up with her?
Yeah, that will help me.
Okay.
Shania Forbes, you said, huh?
Yeah.
Right, that was the person you said you were gonna contact.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah.
All right, but what chapter would you like to present? That's what I'm asking about. Oh, sorry. You're probably looking at the
We could
chapter.
do chapter 6. Yeah.
Chapter 6.
Yeah.
Now, I got your name, but I didn't get. Sorry, what was your name?
Ashley Pear.
Ashley Pear. All right, guys. So you're seeing how that's being done?
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Huh?
Right. So this is Lana Maria Belgrove,
All right, Miss Belgrove.
and we'd like to work in a group of 3, which would be myself, Teresa Chance, and Sherry Fraser Charles. She's not here in class, but
You're aware of who she is.
yes, and
Right,
we've
let
worked
me.
before.
What chapter are you thinking of? Because that'll be the yellow blocks.
Yeah, those will be the yellow blocks.
Uh-huh. You have the last one, which is leading change.
Teresa.
Mhm. Chances there.
Hi. Yeah.
Which chapter you're thinking of looking at? You have being in communities, complex organization,
Complex organization.
vision and
Complex.
strategic.
We're
direction.
thinking about chapter 7. Chapter 8, complex organization. But before, I would like to know, would it be relating to organizational structures?
Yes, there are some.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to that, we will take that chapter. Chapter 8.
So it's Belgrove. Who's the next person?
Teresa Chance. And Sherry Fraser Charles. Number 8 on your list.
All right, hold on. And number 8, Fraser Charles. Okay.
Yes, please.
Any idea why she may not be available today?
I think she's working, sir, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Is she a nurse or something?
No, she's self-employed.
Okay, well, that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's 2 groups sort of set up. Anybody else?
For chapter 7, Diana and Anissa Hemraj.
Chapter 7.
Yeah.
Teams and groups?
Yeah.
All
Diana.
right, so Diane, what's his name?
Sibarat.
All right.
And Anissa Hemraj.
Hemraj. All right. Anybody else?
Yes, so
Go ahead.
Griana's using. Sorry.
Sorry?
Griana's using and Daniela John.
What chapter you're looking at?
I could see it. I have to see it, yeah. You could go down a little bit, sir, please.
After this is the groups of 3.
Chapter 3? No, chapter 6, sorry. Chapter 6.
Integrity and moral purpose, presentation 3. All right, so it'll be you and whom?
Daniela John.
Daniela John. Daniela John. All right. And what might be happening with her right now?
I haven't gotten any feedback.
All right, well, you'll need to let her know, though. All right. Okay, anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chapter 5, Chris Kennedy and Jeremy Ramlochan.
Okay, Chris.
And Anya Palakari Singh.
For chapter what?
5.
Chapter 5 is only going to be 2, not 3.
So, Crystal and I will talk about chapter 5 in the chat.
Oh, hold on. So Chris, you're having some little conflict here with another group that would like to do the same chapter. That's you, Jeremy. All right, so I'm going to make an executive decision. The group that's completed, because it's the same day, you all will do Understanding Self, chapter 4.
So we will take that one.
So it's okay, and we can always switch in and
All right, so you all will do chapter 4?
No, the same person that wanted to join the group.
No, but only 3 can do it. Only 2
No,
can do it.
I'm talking about presentation 6.
6. That's the one you want to do?
Yeah, we could do that one, and just the other person who wanted to join with us could join. That's not
Okay. So that's Chris here. All right. It was you and who, Chris?
Jeremy, and I don't know who the person was.
All right, Jeremy. This is the most frustrating part of this session.
Yes, I will join this group as well.
So who's this?
Palakari Singh.
All right.
19.
All right. Thank you.
For chapter 12, Janelle, Nalini, and myself, Lael, would like to do power and influence.
Okay, so let me get the names again. What's the first one?
Janelle Ali, Nalini Lal, and Leah Bartholomew.
Right, so you need to give me one at a time because
Yeah.
power and influence. Okay.
Yeah.
Neil Ali.
Nalini Lal, and myself.
Okay. Nalini Lal. And myself and two.
Oh, sorry, Leah Bartholomew. I thought you could see who was
Bartholomew?
Yeah.
You see, all right. So one of the drawbacks when I'm working on these documents, I can't see the chat group. So that kind of creates a bit of a difficulty there. All right. So that's chapter 9. Sorry, chapter 12. All right. I still need somebody to present on chapter 4 and 5. Huh?
Chapter 5.
So,
Crystal.
So for chapter 4, I can give you the name for chapter 4.
Chapter 4. All right. So who's chapter 4?
Shabira Mohammed, Devinish Isaac.
All right. So you and Devnish.
And yeah, and it's 3 people, right?
Nope, 2. The white blocks are 2. The yellow blocks are 3.
Okay, no problem. We'll do 2.
So the you and Devnish.
Yeah.
Isaac. Right. What about chapter 5?
Chapter 5, Crystal, Nanlal, and Bikaram Kisan.
Nanlal. Is that somebody trying to get that? Yep, Joy Joseph got kicked out apparently. All right, so it was it was Nanlal and who again?
Bikaram Kisan.
Okay. Mika Ramkis. Cool. That looks good. All right, so we seem to have All right, so we still have chapter 8 and chapter 10 left. Riaz, that's you? Riaz? What's happening? To me, I was hearing Riaz talking. All right, so we still have two groups, two chapters left. So chapters 1 to 5 are sorted out. Chapter 13, Vision and Strategic Direction, and chapter 10, Leading Change. We still have some people. Hi?
I would like to add it in chapter 15, please.
All right, and who's that?
Shanice, right?
Shanice. What's his surname?
Riley, number 20. Yeah.
All right. Do you have anybody who's working with you?
No.
All right. You need 2 people again.
All right. I can join with you for that one.
Okay, thank you.
That's Mr. Riaz Khan. Is that Mr. Khan? I'm assuming it's him. Riaz? Okay.
Yeah, I can join for that one.
All right. Anybody else? Well, we should still have some more people. Anybody who's currently here that hasn't assigned themselves to a group yet? All right. So everybody here has been assigned to a group, right? Joy, what group are you with?
Sir, in the chat there's someone by the name of Sabrina Mangla. She's saying she's not in a group. She could probably be added with us in chapter 15 if she wants.
Oh, she's on a chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Sabrina. Okay. I guess some people. Right. So she will go to your chapter. No problem. But I'm looking for who else hasn't yet been assigned. So we still need presentation 9 still needs 1 more person, I think. No, presentation 9 is set up already. All right. So we still need some people for vision and strategic direction. Is there anybody who's in class who hasn't been put into a group yet? That's the first thing I want to kind of set up.
So me, Joy.
Who's me? Joy. So Joy, you want to be the lead on the presentation 8?
Yeah.
All right. Joy.
So I was switching to my laptop, but the audio not working there. So I don't know.
Usually you have to go into your computer settings to give permission for the software to use your audio and video equipment. All right, Joy. Are you familiar with any of the people who are absent today? Who are Evelyn? Who was already taken up? Some of the absent people were taken up already. I think this person, John, was taken up. Sabrina is here. Sabrina Mangal is here.
Yes, sir, she's here, but she said her microphone is not working.
All right. What's her phone contact? All right, I'm seeing it here. Okay, hold on. Is that 291?
11540.
Okay, let me get that. Guys, if you see something on the chat that I'm not seeing, just let me know, okay? So the reason why I can't see is whenever I go to these pages, I'm unable to see the chat group anymore. That's one of the drawbacks I find of this this presentation too. So she's here. So she's been taken up. John has been taken up. Fraser was taken up as well, if I remember. Yes? There was
That's
a group
correct.
right, that's correct. Let's figure it. Waiting for some confirmation. Anybody else? Forbes? Forbes was taken up as well, not so?
Taken out.
Yeah, Forbes was taken up. Just confirm. So
Yes,
the
sir.
only all right. So the only two people was Fairley and Core who haven't been assigned yet, right? Everybody else is kind of assigned. So Joy, let me see if I get this to work right. All right, Joy, there may be a challenge here because we don't know what's going on with these two individuals. Are you familiar with any of them?
No, sir.
All right, so we'd have to monitor what happens because I know there are people who are still working out their schedules and whatnot, and you know, they could end up withdrawing from the class or not. But I will try to contact them afterwards to find out what's going on in that regard. Okay, so we have tentatively a schedule of individuals who are sorry, one second. I got a missed call from a number here. Wondering if it's anybody from the class. All right, I'll check back afterwards. All right. So we have a tentative schedule that we could firm up by the 3rd of October to make sure that everybody's settling into their stuff. So obviously this means that one of the things you can do is start to read the textbooks and look at the chapter in particular that you're taking up. Chapter 4 and chapter 5 of the text, they tend to be relatively straightforward. In fact, all the textbooks, all the chapters are relatively straightforward. So we are, if you do a count, you'd realize we're looking at a combination of 13 chapters out of 2 textbooks that we are going to be examining in detail. So let's look at what is expected of you for that presentation. These small group presentations, you're going to present to the class. I shouldn't say present. You're going to create presentations to be able to teach the content to your class members. And in teaching your class members, what you want to pay attention to is how do you prefer to be taught? And you know, pattern your activities based upon those teachers who are most effective with you. So we're going to be looking at a number of things. Let's start looking at the content. This is the marking schedule here. First off is coverage of the content from the chapter. That's a critical thing. You ought not to be leaving out any of the areas of the content at all. Everybody's seeing the document, right? Everybody's seeing this document. Just to give me a quick.
Yes, sir.
All right, good.
Yes.
Good, thank you. All right. Use of examples and explanations in your explanations. Now, examples are best drawn from personal experience or from collective experience so that it can be relevant to everybody. So whenever you're explaining things, try to find Now the text has great examples, I can't lie, but sometimes those examples, because of the nature of the textbooks, they're American in nature, the authors are American, they're designed for American audiences. So maybe you can find equivalencies that would be easily understood by the local context or in the local context. So those are the things that we want to look for. That's why the next thing that's attached there is the clarity of your explanation. So sometimes if you take or you have an explanation that is so bounded with the culture of another country that we don't quite get it as locals, it can get lost. So I'm looking for the ability for your explanations to be fairly clear. And during your presentation, you will be making recommendations to us as guidance as to what is this chapter telling us and how we should go about doing things. And of course, as with any presentation, there must be an introduction and a conclusion. Conclusions usually try to revisit what we've all looked at for the semester. The other aspect for 25% of the grade of the exercise is your style of delivery. So styles of delivery are a little more critical because they tend to be a little subjective. So what you're looking for is a style that appeals to more than one type of intellect or learning criterion or learning style. So that we're looking for methodologies that you utilize that are attractive and pique the interest of the audience. So we're going to be looking at that in relation to the kind of class interaction that's going on. So this absolute silence that we're having here right now may not be a good thing for people when they're presenting, because it may be, now the problem here is that I'm speaking to a computer and I have to envision a class in front of me, and that can become problematic because there's no sense of spatial awareness that comes with a presentation of that nature, and that can become problematic when you're trying to connect with an audience, because I'm not seeing you. There's no physicalities, there's no visual cues that I can take to see, are people listening? I don't know. Are people understanding? Because a lot of times what I do in my class, my face-to-face classes, just by looking at people, I can see if they're paying attention, if they're listening, and if they're getting the point. Just by simple, what we call microfacial expressions that come up. So I am projecting because one of the things that you might want as a presenter is to be able to see my audience as well. So I'm trying to make you understand that. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at is the quality and the amount of class interaction. So one of the things I could submit to people is frequently throughout your presentations, stop and ask questions. Now, it's up to the class to respond during those question periods with relevant questions to get clarification. Now, questions could be asked for that very same purpose, for clarification purposes. All right. Of course, we could, with the other element, use of presentation aids. The primary aid that you're probably going to utilize will be, in fact, a PowerPoint presentation. You can find some YouTube clips that you might want to utilize with it. So those types of things that you'd have to do to use will also be assessed. And of course, your ability to manage the amount of time that you have. Now, for 15% of your marks, also, you'd have the issue of citation. So that's an element that you need to pay attention to. How do you go about citing content? There are two ways to do it in a presentation. It'll be using in your speech itself. So you'd say, according to so-and-so, this is so-and-so and so-and-so, or you use a combination of in speech and in text. So where you use a quotation, you might have a small bracketed element with citation notification. And at the end of your presentation, you can have slides that list your sites, your sources of information for your presentation as well. Now, the vast majority of your sources will be from the text, but in order to make your presentation more interesting to the individuals that are looking at it, you may want to include, images and other elements that you can bring in from outside sources that are not necessarily going to be in the text itself. All right. So let me pause right there and let's deal with any questions or concerns that come up in relation to the group presentation of the chapters. This is your first gradable exercise, and it comes up really rapidly. So let's hear what people have to say on ask. Okay. Any questions?
So how long are you expecting these presentations to be?
Well, as the textbooks start, the chapters are a little more, what's the word I want to use? They're a little more straightforward and short to the point, but as they progress through more complex information, the chapters tend to get a little longer and more involved. So the more involved they get, the more time will be required for disaggregating all of the key ideas to bring it out and explain it. So what I think would be a good idea is that I'll set up a range. Hi Riaz, back again. I'll set up a range between half an hour to about 45 minutes, a maximum of 1 hour per presentation. It really is going to be solely dependent on the amount of information and the density of that information that you're presenting. That makes sense, Jeremy?
Yes, sir, that makes sense.
Yeah. So as I said, some chapters are a little more easy, relatively easy than other chapters. Okay. All right. Any other questions about the presentation? You all don't want to know other things like what about the mechanics of how it's going to be done? The vast silence. How many people still sleeping?
Excuse sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Will we have to present like with a slideshow or PowerPoint?
That would be probably one of the best ways to do it. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, unless you have an alternative methodology that you want to use. What do you have in mind?
No, I was just asking.
Yeah, okay. I thought you had a suggestion. One of the things we want to avoid doing during presentations of this nature is reading. Although we may not be seeing you, reading becomes evident when somebody listens to you. All right. Because of the nature of the content, I know you'll be dependent upon the text a lot, but remember, you are teaching the class. You're not presenting, guys. You're teaching the class the content. Everybody is taking a leadership role in teaching the class. So the class is going to be dependent upon you to present that information. They're going to be trusting that you are doing the necessary work to be able to present the information from each chapter in a logical and sequential manner that they can clearly understand, which is why you'd have to entertain questions. Questions mean that people are seeking clarification on the topic. That makes sense, guys? Some confirmation would be nice if you're listening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's good. Anybody has any other questions that they may want to ask for clarification purposes? This is also something that you can bring up in the WhatsApp chat when I set it up. If there are questions you wanted to ask but didn't really think about it at this point in time, because I'm kind of putting you on the spot, then you can ask that question later on. All right, so we'll move ahead for now. Seeing something in the chat. All right, so that's yes. Okay, cool. All right. So we said that in the schedule, this represents your first assessment, and it represents 30% of your final grade. Okay, so coming back up to the schedule here, so you'd realize that presentations, if we run according to schedule, will begin on the 10th. Well, I will be putting up my presentations before, but they will finish by the 7th of November. Then the next activity is a midterm exercise on the 21st. Now, the midterm exercise will take the form, let me just put it here. This takes the form of 4 compulsory short response questions completed as individual assignments that are submitted over the course of 1 week. Now, the midterm content is based upon a couple of the chapters from the presentation in particular. So, but the way in which the questions are asked is reflective in nature. You are going to be asked to reflect upon your experience with some of the content. So it's going to require some fairly personal, some personal discussions about those things, and you'll have about 1 week to look at the questions and write your responses and submit it. That has been set up for the week of the 21st of November. Now, any questions about that so far? That's a 20% exercise. So between the midterm exercise and your presentation, that's 50 marks won already. Okay. Now, the next key activity that goes on is actually listed here as assessment 2, and that is the debate. The debate is 15%, and that debate is carded for the 12th of December. That's the last teaching day of the semester. Okay? So on the 12th of December, we will have another live session during which we'll be doing a debate on 2 of the topics in the debates topics here. So from the 3 topics, you are going to choose 2 of these topics here. And again, in this case, I am not participating in the debate, but this debate is going to be conducted by students. The teams, there will be 3 teams set up. There will be a team that's arguing for, there's a team that's arguing against, and there's another team that's going to moderate the entire discussion and debate procedure. And you all are going to mark each other. Obviously, I will be helping people determine what and how they're going to go about doing these things. All right, any questions on these 2 assessments so far? So that means we are going to move from small debates, small presentations to larger teams. So in essence, it means that we can set up the 2 teams at 10 by 10 by 5. Why? Because the debating teams, the pro and the con team, will have to then further subdivide into 5 by 5, 1 for each topic. All right, and the 5 that are moderating it's really, yeah, it really should be even numbers, but we can work around that and make some suggestions. All right, any questions about this here as well? You all understand everything perfectly, right? All right, see some Sabrina, could I have contact to join on WhatsApp chat? All right, see some chatting going on behind me, right? Cool, that's all right. Any questions about the debate activity, guys? No?
Hi, Sir. Good day.
Hi,
Can you just go over and explain how the debate is going to be formalized in terms of how we're going to deliver our for and against and the narration of it?
When you say how do you think a debate is run?
I know they have a for side and an against side, right? So
Yep.
I know that based on whatever the topic is, each side will give their viewpoints, okay? But in terms of the narrative side of it, and how exactly that person is going to be able, and the scoring element of it, I don't understand that part.
Well, how is if you ever looked at the debate, isn't there a team of judges that assess the debate?
Agreed.
Right. Okay. So the third team is the marking team, but they are charged also with the responsibility of managing the entire debate. So what we're doing is we're using something that we call the Westminster style of debating. So it's parliamentary debate. Making sense?
Now I
So
understand. Thank you very
right.
much.
So the third team will be like the Speaker of the House. They will be taking charge of the activities, and they would determine how people can get up and say something, as opposed. So somebody may be putting forward their main argument, and then somebody rises on a point of order and says, "Mr. Speaker," or whatever, or "Madam Speaker," as the case might be, depending, and raise a point of order and point of correction. Those are the things that happen, and therefore that team has to manage it and rule on whatever the point of order that may be. Let's say, for example, you get up and you raise a point of order that the speaker for the opposing side is using improper language or imputing improper motives to a particular thing. They would have standards and set up rules for how to go about doing the thing. Now, obviously, we can't adopt everything from Parliament. And just for argument's sake, or not for argument, but for information, the rules that I'm referring to refer to the Roberts Rules of Parliamentary Debate Systems. All right. So if you want to do, that's a free download online. You could look at doing that. But it's not something that I need you to get overly concerned with now. The first thing you need to do is to pay attention to our presentations of our chapters, and then we'll move down. So sequentially. So I'm not going to throw everything at you at once, because I'm not going to just throw you all to the wolves. I have some instruments that are designed to help manage the debate, which include marking rubrics, because and what it means is the debating teams don't mark each other. They mark the moderating team, and the moderating team will then mark the activities of the debating team. And they're going to not be marking the persons, they're going to be marking the quality of the debate, the information that was presented, and how it was presented. And you guys are not going to be marking the persons that were the monitor, the moderators, that I call them, or the speakers of the house, but you're going to be marking how well they managed the activity, were their rulings fair. You're not marking the individual, you're marking the work that they put in. Now, one of the things that will happen if I go back to the presentation is that we have a little downtime in terms of sessions between your last presentation, the 7th of November, and the debate exercise of the 12th of December. So you'd see there's almost a month and a few days before those two key activities. So that gives us a few sessions in which I can meet with the different teams. So I can meet with the teams that are, one evening I meet with, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on a Saturday. It could be on a time that's mutually convenient for everybody, to meet and discuss their activities and what they're doing for their debate thing. And another thing that we can do is we can actually choose a date and run a mock debate, which might be a good idea. But we won't debate the same topics that are in the list, but we will be debating something else, a kind of throwaway topic that we can utilize to just get accustomed to how it's going to be done. Now, of course, the debate is going to be recorded, and then I would submit the recording online for you. You guys could, pull your own copies of it if you want. All right. Any questions about that? Now, that is the culminating activity. Huh? That closes our classes off. So it kind of wraps up things at the end of that. Okay. Any more questions on that?
So I don't have any questions on the debate, but
Uh-huh.
I was looking at the presentations. Sorry to go back to that.
That's okay. That's okay. No problem.
I didn't realize the date for which one I chose, and I have a prior arrange a prior engagement on that day. So scroll down and you'll see I chose chapter 13, I think it was. No, or chapter 12. Yeah, power and influence. I was
7th of
hoping,
November.
yeah. I know that the presentation 8, chapter 13, I know that 2 people aren't even here to choose. I could switch with one of those people. That's a better date for me. Or anything really. I just I
Right.
can't
So
really from.
okay. So the easiest one is to switch with the team with Joy. Joy, you have a problem with that? Hello?
Joy?
Joy?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a problem with getting Leah with you now and trading off one of those absent people? So at least you have 2 live people that, and therefore you can start communicating with Leah one time. And then of
Yes.
course, Miss Lal and Miss Miss Ali, you all are okay losing Miss Bartholomew?
Sure.
Sure. Well, yeah,
I'm sorry.
You don't really have a. He doesn't really have a choice, right?
I'm so sorry for the confusion, but yeah.
Yeah. That's what they always say, right before they slit your throat. I'm sure you. All right, so this actually makes better sense because that means at least Joy, you have one person who is already in class with whom you could communicate. Ali and Lal, at least you all could start to look at that, and just in case Shanice Felly or Evelyn Kaur do not materialize in class, it doesn't mean that your presentation is shut down. You all can go ahead and do them by yourselves. All right. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I know Joy. For me, actually, I feel a little better splitting them up rather than putting them all together in one. All right, because nobody. Although Miss Ashley, Pay Ashley, is taking somebody who's not here, she's kind of vouching for her. And similarly, I think you're doing the same thing with. No, everybody's here. Let's not see. Ah, crap. Hold on a sec. So check until 1, 2. All right, these 2 people are accounted for. So there's only really 2 people who weren't accounted for by somebody else. Technically, there are 5 people absent. All right. Okay, so we have 3, 5, 3, 15. All right, so all 25 people have been assigned. Okay, let me make some saves because I'll be loading this schedule up onto the e-classroom. So you all can download your own copy and manage that. Okay.
Excuse sir.
Yes.
Daniela John responded. She said that her Wi-Fi had cut and she went to buy a phone call to put a plan, and the Wi-Fi, the data plan, isn't connecting to the laptop for her to enter the classroom.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That sucks.
She says she will email you later and tell you.
So tell her what I'll be doing is I will be loading the recording of this presentation onto the e-classroom. So as soon as she could go on. But it's going to take a little while because these recordings are so large that I have to load them to my YouTube channel. That takes a little while because they're checking a lot for they're checking content to make sure there's no copyright issues before they approve it. Okay.
Okay.
So do you want me to add Daniela to the WhatsApp chat? You want to give me the number now?
Yes.
John, right? Okay. What's the number?
Yeah. 329-1076.
Okay. So for those guys who have Fraser and Forbes, you all have numbers for them?
Yes, I have a number for Fraser.
All right, what's that?
Give me a second. Just let's pull up a number here. Her number is 716 1819.
1819. BUSI, oh, that cock now get up? All right. What about Forbes? Did you have Forbes as well? Shania Forbes?
Sir, I don't have a current number, but I'm trying to get it right.
Okay. So, but I mean, you did a doctor, so you need to communicate with the ASAP, all right? All right. So that's...
So I have a number. It's 386-1236.
That's for Forbes?
386-1236.
1236.
1336.
Okay, so that's 1336?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Okay, so coming back to the schedule, so I'll be putting this up. All right, so let's go down to the last two assignments. Assignment 4 and 5. Assignment 4 is a 20% exercise, and it's termed a self-analysis. And you are basically going to be reflecting on your life to date and writing reflective autobiography guided by some of the questions that you're seeing here. Your family history, your traditions and customs, factors that have influenced your life and perceptions of leadership, the first times you realize that you may or may not have had leadership potential, the experiences, well, more the who that has the who that who has experienced influence your values and philosophies, and how have they and or incidents in your life transformed you. So those are the questions that help to guide your autobiography. Now this is something that you can start pulling together now, starting with your family history and stuff like that. Just below that is the marking scheme, but not a rubric, just a marking scheme. And the reason why I'm not putting together a rubric for this is because the variation in people's lives and their life story makes it almost impossible to write up a rubric to guide us with this. But the idea is, what I'm looking for is for you to go through and do some significant evaluation of your life. And if you do this properly, this should be a point in which you can really reflect upon you as an individual at this point in time and truly evaluate yourself in a critical sense. This evaluation is looking at it from the perspective of your leadership and leadership potential. But it is not the only thing that you can that will happen. You will tackle things if you take this seriously enough. You will tackle some critical elements of your life that you may be leaving alone or avoiding inadvertently or not inadvertently. This is actually going to force you to face some of those issues in your life that maybe you've been putting under the carpet or hiding away or pushing away. Those are things that you probably want to pay attention to. So again, this is a 20% exercise. The submission deadline for this, though you can start writing it from today, for example, you could, or at least start to think about how you're going to respond to this, is the 27th of December, which is the Sunday after Christmas. So I'm giving you a good bit of time to write this. Similarly, the fifth and final exercise has the same submission deadline. Doesn't mean that you have to wait for the last minute. So this is your reflections and leadership plan. And you should probably answer this question sometime before our next class, which is to write up somewhere what are your expectations for the course, the lecturer, and yourself, and put it somewhere. Because at the end, after we finish the debate activity, you need to write a new reflection based upon going back over those reflections that you started with. Where does it measure up now after we've gone through it? Now, this reflections and leadership plan requires that we do cover a fair amount of the content before you can really start to answer this in the context of the leadership program that we're looking at. Describe what you've learned about yourself during this. So those things are what we're hoping you will go through during the course, and you will begin to tackle these questions as we start to look at the content that influences it. So you're going to have to wait at least on the majority of maybe of the first 8 chapters or so to go off before you can start to answer these questions. But I would tell you, don't leave it for the last minute, because you want to write fairly good reflections and sort of develop a good response in terms of your reflections and leadership. Now, a common question that is asked: is there a word limit? No, there are no word limits on these 2 exercises, because really and truly it's kind of like an open book exercise where you are simply responding to questions in an open manner, open-handed manner. And you would also notice in the marking scheme there's no citation. Why? Because literally you are writing about yourself and how you feel about things and what your response to certain things are. If, however, in the construction of your reflections and your self-assessment, you do rely on some information from other sources, please include the citation for it, both in text and the reference listing. That'll be the APA format, okay, guys? And of course, use the standard project setup for your assignments, which is everybody's familiar with the standard project setup, right? For submission of papers. I'm making an assumption here. Some confirmation or thing might be useful here at this point. No, nobody? Anybody can tell me what are the requirements when you're submitting an assignment? What should it look like? Ashley?
Okay, this is
Teresa? Go ahead.
Yes, based on memory, I think you have to have the custard page, the cover page.
Oh,
then
no.
you need to have your. Huh?
No, you don't.
You don't?
You
Okay.
have to have a title page. It doesn't necessarily have to be COSTAT's page. All right? But you must have a title page that provides with all of the pertinent information about the class, the section, and who you are. All right? So that'll mean the name of the class, the name of the lecturer, the class code, the CRN, your name, your student ID number. That's a title page. All right? And the name of the project. But what else? And what I'm talking about besides that? Teresa, continue. So I know I cut you off.
And then you have your question you're answering. If you have the question or whatever, then you have the answer. It must be 12 size, 12 font, either in Arial or Roman style numeral, double space, and justified if you like. With the citations, if you use citations.
Okay, so the one error there is there's no justification required, but you should be using right align. For academic papers, it's always right align. If you want, because this one is not fully that way, you could use justify, but justify has a tendency to go stretching things. If it starts to look weird, you'll have to turn off the justify. There's the 1-inch margin. Yes, that's correct. I want to update from Times Roman and Arial. What I'm looking for is a clear, readable font. Because remember, I have to read all of these stories that you all write. And it must be relatively easy on the eye, and because you're not printing it, you don't need to worry about the number of pages. But what it does require is that if you start to pass 4 to 5 pages, you need a table of content and page numbers. Remember that, okay? Now, if you remember the assignments, they are guided by questions. So those questions here can be utilized like sections. You follow me? So that if you're responding to those questions, you can use those as your guide to guide the development of your different sections in response to these things. Making sense? All right. The expectation, however, is there's the limited use of citation, simply because you are in fact using your own life as the key example and source of data and information about it. All right, so those are the 5 pieces of assessment that we are utilizing for the course.
Excuse me.
Yes.
If we write drafts and send it in for you to check it, would you?
A draft of what?
Like, say we do the assignments and we send it in before the due date. Would you like tell us what we did, went wrong to get better marks?
Well, what? Yeah, I can. I mean, but one of the things that I think you're missing the point about the exercise, is that it's not about scoring marks. Let's go back to the beginning and remember what was it that I was asked that is the key learning outcome, number 6. Do you remember? Were you here at that time when I went through the learning outcome for the course?
I don't think so.
You sure? You don't remember seeing this?
Yes, yes.
Right? And we talked about behavior modification.
Yeah.
All right. So the thing about the thing about what you're looking at here is that you will know for yourself if you've developed a good self-analysis and a good reflection and leadership plan. I'm telling you, you will know it, because you would have worked let me put it to you this way. How do I really articulate what I'm talking about? You will instinctively know if you've done the right thing for the simple reason that you will feel a sense of completion when you've done it.
Okay.
This is probably, first and foremost, I don't know if you all are getting the idea that this is one of this is a strange course, because first and foremost, I'm not asking you for citation. Almost every class is asking you for citation, and that's because you're dependent heavily on textbooks. We're not that heavily dependent on textbooks. We're taking a textbook, we're going through what it has to say, and we're trying to apply it immediately. That is what my point is. Because if you start to apply, so what chapter are you presenting?
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6 on chapter 6 on the DAFT, or the chapter 6 from the leadership and ethics, exploring leadership. Do you remember?
Yeah, on this one.
All right. So you're not in chapters, you're in presentation 6.
Yeah, presentation 6.
What's your name again?
No, it's Griana's using. And Daniela John.
Right, so you're presenting chapter 6 of the first textbook. There are 2 chapter 6s that are going to be presented. 6 from the DAFT and 6 from the exploring leadership. All right. All right. Now that's an interesting chapter that you're going to be dealing with there. That is going to deal with integrity and moral purpose. And that's a question. That chapter actually features in the midterm exercise. That chapter 7, chapter 6 of the DAFT. But the first 2 chapters are probably the most critical chapters, that deal with self-assessment. The information coming from that is what is going to be utilized to help you to do your own self-analysis, which is what the model that we're looking at is going to ask you to engage in: self-analysis, self-reflection, and trying to look closely at what you do in relation to how you can be a better person. The other chapters are going to start, like this one here is going to tackle what is your level of integrity, what is your ethical values. Is going to be redone when we look at chapter 6, courage and moral leadership. Then something that is already there and to COSTAT students, teams and groups. Oh, they don't like that, eh? Everybody hates to work in groups. Would there be a vote yes here for most people? They don't like group work. Is that true? Nobody. Yes, and Devnish says it with caps, and there's yes, yes, yes from yeah, and why is that? Kinda somebody trying to be different. Yeah. Why? Who can? It depends on who you're working with. Stupid people. And all right, somebody speak out. Because I wanted to be recorded. What are the problems that all right? So Leah, you made a statement there that you need to clarify. Leah, clarify that statement because you're antisocial. Let's hear. What does that mean?
I like to work by myself. I like to be at home. I just who I am. I don't really need to interact with people as much to feel accomplished. I don't know. I just me and my lonesome.
Yeah. That okay, but can somebody who has your introspection ability not be useful for a group?
Can someone with my introspectability do what?
You sound as if you have the ability to be very introspective, that you could look within yourself and explore things. There is a role for you in a group. Now, I have to agree with most students that group activities and group work in COSTAT tends to be a nightmare. And a long time ago, there was something that I promised, and I worked diligently with trying to monitor group activities in my class, because far too often groups end up in problems because they are not managed well. All right, faculty has a tendency to take a hands-off approach because they believe that you are old enough to be able to manage your own group work activity, that you're old enough, you're mature enough to deal with the issue. The problem with it is that we really don't know what we're doing with groups. Now, a chapter is presented in this presentation that deals only with groups and group activities. And there's actually science and study around groups and group dynamics and so on, group conflict. Now, the theory is actually proven that it is normal for groups to have conflict, but the conflict has to be managed. And when the conflict takes place, it is supposed to be managed and utilized to improve the group's capacity to be able to do better things. But far too often, people avoid groups because they're afraid of the conflict. And that is the downfall of most groups when we start, because conflict is a useful tool. Now, I don't know if any of you all are familiar with the Beatles. You all familiar with any of the music of the Beatles?
Yeah.
Some of you, maybe. All right. One of the greatest things that the Beatles were able to do was to harness their musical conflicting interests into making interesting music. working in tight quarters, even with small groups of people, can still be frustrating and can still be time consuming. But if you have to learn to manage things, sometimes it means compromise, sometimes it means finding consensus, and sometimes it's making hard decisions. But if without having somebody to guide you who knows more about group dynamics and group conflict and group management, which is supposed to be a faculty, let's put it honestly, my responsibility is to help guide through this whole activity. Now, one of the things that I have employed in all of my classes a good while now, I mean, many years, I've been teaching for a long time, let's put it this way. Suffice it to say that as old as the college is, I've been teaching with the college. I've put in practice a very hands-on approach to group management. And I have found that it bodes well because when students do find their final presentations and stuff, they tend to have a lot more fun and they tend to have a lot more success, which is the most important thing for me. And that to me is synonymous. I have never seen learning needing to be taxing. Learning can be fun as well. So I'm hoping that we will be able to manage our group activities in a manner that helps to make it more enjoyable, and that for those of you who are still early into your program and not like Leah on the way out, it would be useful for you to take into practice with other things. All right. Okay. Enough about the groups for now. What if any other questions do you want clarification on at this point in time? Especially when it comes to the schedule and the assessments and the presentations, anything. Any questions, any concerns? Because we're coming up on about 1:30, and my intention was to kind of be finished by about 1:30. So I'm trying to think about anything. So we made a decision about our timing. 11 o'clock seems to be okay. I would say I'll open the meetings from 11 or quarter to 11, and hopefully by 11:30 we should get started with the majority of it. All right. We've set up the schedule for presentations, and our next live session is when? Anybody? Nobody? You don't have the document yet, but our next live session is in October. The 3rd of October, right? Okay, so we've done that. We've gone through all the assessments that are required for this class. I am certain you will have more questions, but you've also provided your phone contact, so I'll make up or set up the WhatsApp chat group. You can use that there.
Excuse sir.
Yes, Crystal.
I wanted to ask about the documents that you put up with the personality test. How will we be using that?
This is a good question, and I had that open. I'm going into the e-class here. You guys can see this. I've enrolled you all for the class already. So, okay. I was out for too long. All right. So, I should probably have hidden these, but I left them open. The personality test and the personality test interpretation is to be utilized when you're doing a self-assessment. So when you're assessing yourself, you need to use some instruments to do that. And that's the purpose of having the personality test and stuff. When we do chapters 1 and 2, you'll see the significance of those personality tests. Have you ever used one before, a personality test? Anybody?
I think I did with accountant.
Which one you did?
I can't remember, but there was one to tell us about our career path.
Okay, so that's another form of evaluation as well, yes. So you use a form of that is called aptitude testing. And aptitude testing looks at, what are the types of employment or jobs or career choices that suits who you are. Now you gotta be careful with that because that changes in time.
Yes, yes.
All right. So Reyes, did you ever do that? You're heavily into the accounting area. You ever did a aptitude test?
I've done psychometric tests.
Right. It's the same thing. Aptitude and
Last year.
psychometric testing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Which one did you do?
I'm not certain of the name of it,
Okay.
but
That's all right.
it's it was done by a local company. Don't
Yeah,
remember
but
the name of
they
them
probably
offhand, but
yeah, but they probably use one of the instruments from abroad. The
yeah.
most popular one is the Myers-Briggs. The Myers-Briggs test. Yes, Anya. Yes, Anya.
I just said the MBTI, so
Right. Yes, that one. And that is actually the same one that I have available there. You can download it and check it. It's about 70 questions. The big five, right? Okay. You can do that in HR. Correct. Personality testing is utilized in employment, human resource management, team building, classroom etiquette, career development. And one of the things that we can also do or utilize personality testing is for self-analysis. And that's, again, a tool that is utilized to help us to evaluate ourselves. So the tools that are there and the other tools that you're going to come across when students present the chapters, you'd realize there's a host of tools that you can utilize to evaluate who you are as an individual, as a person. How many of you all here ever did the VARC learning inventory evaluation? For those of you who did IT
Yeah,
and
I did
business,
that one.
yeah, you would have done that in business orientation.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Because that one would have taught you how you learn this. All right? It's another form of understanding ourselves. And that's what this course is going to ask you to do a lot. It's going to ask you to evaluate who you are. So there are different tools that we can use. But one of the other main tools that we can utilize to evaluate ourselves is to look back at our personal histories, which is what the self-analysis is asking you to do. The self-analysis is a tool that is going to ask you to evaluate yourself as an individual and look at the things that may have happened in your life or the people in your lives who may have influenced you in one way or another to make you the person you are today. Good, bad, or indifferent. We're not judging that. We just want to work out who you are and why you are the way you are now. Making sense? Any questions? Comments? Just checking the chats. All right. 5 big personality tests in psychology. All right, okay. That's Diane. All right. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to be loading the schedule up on the eClassroom so you can download your own copy. I will put this recording that's going on now. I'll put this up and look out for the first presentation of. I may do it in one or split it into 2 presentations, chapters 1 to 3, in that order. All right. And load them up with either a small video or a video presentation like this, or simply a PowerPoint presentation, and we'll see how it works out. All right. Any questions as we are getting ready to close? It's coming up on 1:30. Everybody's okay?
So I got you with Shania Falls.
And she
couldn't get through the link.
All right, so one of the things with the link that I sent there, it must be through your student login. So if she's using her own private thing, she will have to go in the browser into incognito, and in that format, it should allow her to link to the class. Just ask her to try that. You all know how to use incognito windows, right? In your browsers. that might be something that what's her name, boy? The person who came in under a different name.
Kira from Alacrity.
Kira from Alacrity. If you launch it from inside an incognito window, you might be able to actually get through to your thing. You try that and see. But now I know who you are. No, you're not an infiltrator and some kind of hacker trying to come into our classroom. All right. Okay. So if there are no more questions and there are no more comments, just giving you all a couple moments, just to know that nobody wants to ask any question. Just checking the chats again. I'd like to thank you all for coming in today on a wet and rainy Saturday. Hopefully you all aren't too much at a loss for this. And want to wish us the best for the rest of the semester. Okay. Be safe, everybody, and have a great evening.
Same to you, sir.
All right.
Bye, sir.
Good night. Good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Get home safely. Don't get wet. All right,
Bye, sir.
Okay, good night. Good evening.
All right.
All right.
All right.
All right, Riaz, take your time. Okay, good evening. Oh, there's a chat here. Let's see.
Right, Sarita.
All right, take your time, Jeremy. Anya, you okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we hanging up for the evening.
All right,
All
cool.
right. Okay, bye.